is Steve Mills. I think I know most of you already. I am one of the leads for the Rack and Power project, so we're excited to have you guys here today.
Yep. Good morning. Caleb Lusk, Ratal, mechanical engineer, also one of the project leads here for Rack and Power. And yeah, we recognize a lot of faces out there. So again, thanks for all the participation, and we look forward to a good day this morning.
Yep. So if you have any questions related to the Rack and Power project or whatever, then feel free to grab one of us throughout the day. We'll be here all day. So that's it for us. So yeah, take it away.
Right. Good morning, everyone. That wasn't me. Why doesn't this work? Yeah, well, this works. Does this work? Yeah, okay. So my name is Michel Geensen. I'm an architect in the CTO office of KPN, and I'll be your host for this talk, together with Liang Zhang, who's sitting over here. He'll join me on stage a bit later when we get to his section. Liang Zhang is director hyperscaler within Schneider Electric. And today I'll be talking about a telco rack for central office. Last year I already had a talk about this topic, but then I only came up with, well, we have some challenges, and today also we have some answers how we can solve these challenges. But I'll start with a recap or explain why are we looking into this. The reason why we're looking into this is that I'm KPN, I'm a telco, and a lot of the telcos are looking into CORD implementation. And what CORD does is taking an old, ancient telecom location closer to customers, and we're changing that into kind of data center. And what we do over there, we have telco functions, normally, or a lot of the time, often large monolithic vendor boxes, and we're disaggregating them and making them into smaller pieces, white boxes, servers, OCP servers, and we're putting them in those locations. Part of the complexity is that normally if you put in a large box, you just hook in the power and you hook in the networking part. But if you put down a lot of other smaller boxes which you have to interconnect, it increases your complexity. So what we did is we looked into this and said, okay, is there not a better way to get this stuff into these locations? Because if you change a central office into a data center, you could think, okay, let's do it the way a hyperscaler does it. Because hyperscalers have their own way of deploying these things into these locations. I'm not sure if anyone's seen the Yahoo Japan presentation yesterday. So they actually showed a video how they roll in racks, which are pre-built. I got a picture from someone else who did something similar. That's also actually what the OCP Colo Facility Guideline says. So you have a pre-installed, pre-cabled rack, pre-cabled, pre-installed by an integrator. You can just roll it into your spot where you need to connect it. You hook it into the power, you hook it up into the network, and you're done. That would sound like a nice solution also for a telco in these central office locations, because then we don't have to mess around with all these cables and connecting all the stuff which suddenly was introduced by using or moving into this CORD concept. However, this was one of the racks which we arrived at, normal V2 rack, which arrived at one of my test facilities. And as you can see, it won't fit. And this is the loading bay at the back of the building. So getting this guy upright into this building, that might be somewhat challenging. And this is a picture from another location. This is actually a central office location. Well, there's no elevator, and the computer room is not on the ground floor. So you can imagine that lifting an 800 kilo rack up these stairs is also somewhat challenging. And also the height is an issue on the left, but it's also an issue on the right, because if you have to lift up this rack, you can hit the ceiling in certain stairways. So we did some site surveys of different central offices. And well, it's not all the same, but often we have such challenges. And sometimes we have other challenges with the height or with the dimensions or elevator restrictions. So, and KPN is, by the way, not the only part who has this issue or this challenge. These are some pictures from Telefonica. I think it's Madrid. And the way they had to get their rack in, their OCP full height rack, is they had to use this crane to get it in through a window. So there's a challenge in the telco world with using these central office locations as a data center. So that was basically also the story from last year, and there were also some more challenges. So another part of the challenge which we have has to do with the cabling, because the hyperscalers often have a lot of servers and only a few switches. Let's say 1 or 2 top of rack switches in such a rack. But in the telco world, when we change, for instance, a BNG into a disaggregated node, we have a lot of leaves, a lot of spines, a lot of networking, and we have way more cables between these components. And because there's not much room on the OCP v2 racks on the side, the cables are going to be in the way of all the equipment. So if you want to pull out one leaf because it's broken, or you want to replace it by a larger one, that means you have to take out all the cables from the other ones, and then your redundancy concept breaks, because you're taking away, you're bringing down your whole rack, and that's not something which we would like to do. Well, and the example over here is with using DAC cabling, but even with fiber, if you have a lot of cabling in the rack, it's going to be a challenge. A third thing we ran into has to do with the power. So the normal V2 rack has 2 power zones, and it can do something like 15 kilowatt per power zone, using the bus bar to give power to all the components in the rack. But if you look at the telco locations, the central office locations, well, if I talk to these location manager guys, they tell me, well, if you do more than, 10 kilowatt, and another guy told me, well, more than 4 kilowatts is going to be an issue. Because I have challenges with cooling this, and also if you could think, okay, maybe I take out a lot of other racks and just put in one rack which consumes more, but then they still have the challenge that with the hotspot, with the older cooling equipment. So they told me it can never be more than 10 kilowatts in these locations. So we don't require 30 kilowatts of power in these racks. It also has to do with the fact that we're not going to put in a lot of high capacity servers. It's just going to be a few servers and a bunch of white boxes. And these white boxes consume less power than these high processing power servers. So we don't have the power need actually. So now I'll give the word to Liang, who has
Thanks, Michel.
helped us with the solution.
Yes, so we had some discussion with Michel on the central office, like what we shall do in the OCP applications. So here's the proposal we are currently working on together with Michel. So we try to give more space to the IT gears, like networking or the servers. So then there will be 1 BBUs. We think it's enough to supply the whole racks till up to like 10 kilowatt. So, and we dramatically reduce the height of the racks. Actually, there will be 31 U totally, and it's going to be 1.6 meters. So can fit into most of the building elevators, not like a specific shipping elevators. So I'll talk a little bit about the stairs later. There's some interesting things later. But also regarding the routings, compared with the standard OCP racks, so there are lots of networking, cabling, fibers for the central office applications. So we're also putting some additional routing space, try to see whether that's enough for the central office, for the networking to use. So generally this is how it look like. So also like you can still put the old like 3U power shelf, but you occupy 2 U's and putting maybe, in most of the central office they have the old backup, telecom backup product, but this is still available using the traditional OCP power supply with the BBUs. So this is going to be looked at from different views. So there will be a 200 millimeter space for the routings, and the rear door is optional. So if you can install, the depth is going to be 100 millimeter depth. But and also you can. Currently, we put the routing space on the right side. You can see here, but if we're still in the testing. If you think that's considering the loading balance, this is not going to be a very high density, so it's not going to be very heavy. So we think it'll be fine if you put the gears in the left side, so make the routings on the right side, but there will be an option later. If you're like 100 millimeter in the left or on the right, we can modify on that way. So this generally the solution to use for the central office, especially for telecom application, update existing central office is on that with these kind of things. So also here are some detailed view how you can, there will be a sheet metal box to cover the routing space and a finger guard to arrange cabling space. That's generally our proposal right now for the central office using for with the OCP gears. So no big change on the power supply, still existing power supplies, but the dramatic change will be the form factor of the racks and considering more about the routing space. So we're still in a proof of concept period. So later we are going to discuss the inspire or accept on this product. So there will be some things you want to continue to talk about?
Yeah, there's one thing which I want to add, so something Liang didn't mention is that, so the normal V2 rack is 60 centimeters wide, but if you go to our telco locations, it's normally the telco racks are 80 centimeters wide, so there was also actually a request from the location guy from, is it not possible to make it 80 centimeters, because then we can just fit it take out an old rack and put in this new rack. And we actually, so using this 20 centimeters on the side, so we can do all the cabling between the components via the side. Yeah. That's the reason, and also why the finger guard thing was there to use this for the cabling. So this was only part of the puzzle. The last part of the puzzle is how can we get these racks upstairs in locations that don't have elevators where the computer floors are on the second. And what we ran into was together with Schneider, they come up with this idea, is there are logistic guys out there who have solutions like this, like an electric stair climber. So as long as the rack is not too heavy, and we don't expect that if we put in just a few servers and a bunch of white boxes, we did some calculations, should be below this 400 kilo, we can use equipment like this to get it into these older buildings. And then hopefully KPN and Telefonica and all the other parties out there can get a telco rack into a building without, even though it's fully geared already, fully cabled. And so we can also use the benefits of that part of OCP. And now, well, the question which I have to the room, well, if you're an operator or maybe a solution provider to operators or other parties who have similar challenges, and if you have some ideas which you can put on the table or different challenges which you encounter which we can use into the design to also solve that challenge, please connect with us and let us know what your requirements or your challenges are, so we can see if we can fit it into this solution as well. The next step for us is to we want to finalize the design, of course, do the POC. We can hopefully get a sample, try to really fit it up and try to get it into a building. And we also want to make this an OCP accepted design via the OCP Rack and Power group. So again, if you have ideas how we can improve upon this, or you have additional requirements which we might take into account, please contact me. My contact details are in the presentation deck, so you can just reach out to me. Presentation will also be later available, of course, via the OCP website and via YouTube. And that was my presentation, or our presentation. Any questions?
I have a question, maybe not only to you, but in general to everyone. This single bus bar, let's say power rack, and it's actually smaller, and it uses only one power shell. Does it make sense that also in colocation data center, something like that could be used in certain applications? Because the power level many times also in the same range, not up to 10 kilowatt installed power. So could we reuse this concept or part of this concept also in the data center field when we talk about enterprise and so on?
Well, maybe so. Yeah. But if it's going to be an OCP accepted design, maybe you can again make a larger version of it with just one power supply in it for the enterprise data center. Could be, because they have probably same power restrictions.
What about the bus bar? Do you have?
This is a standard. So what we did, we got the standard V2 rack, and they just got the
Yeah,
part
well,
of it, and they added the
Yeah.
side to it. So it's a standard bus bar. It's a standard everything.
But
If you look at
the bus bars actually they are divided in two power zones.
normally, yeah, but not in this one.
This is just one, so it's
Yeah.
a new bus bar, okay?
Yeah,
Must be a new bus bar, this one.
it's bus bar is a bus bar anyway.
I agree 100% with you, but it's a new bus bar design. Same size as the V2 or a bit,
So,
A little bit modified on the length and the depth as it's modified on the like specific application. So the
Yeah.
length and the depth like it's going to
so
be.
the copper cross section is going to be.
Yeah, the close is going to be exactly the same. The contact part, connection part is the same one. Yeah,
Yeah, the contact part is the same, but
yeah.
maybe a little bit more depth or.
It should be less steps. So it's a proof of concept right now. We're going to see.
I will just stop thinking loud because the bus bars, you know, using V2 up to 6.6 kilowatt per power zone, we know that can be used at a little bit at higher power, but you know, many customers still, there's 6.6, we cannot install more IT and so on. It would be interesting to understand which kind of bus bar has been used there. Also to
Liang knows the details for the bus
Okay.
bar.
other application. I think these are quite
Okay, I change email with you later. We can discuss on that. So.
By the way, the reason why we're looking into we still want to use the bus bar, see if that's an option, is that we like the things like Facebook is doing, like the copy service, so that we can leverage that. And a lot of the other racks which are out there now, the Telco work group, those shrink back to 19 inch, and suddenly you can't use the 20-inch wide equipment anymore. So yeah, if you want to leverage that, you have to move to a 21-inch concept also. Other questions? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
We have some time left.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.